Hey, I'm your host Eman, another video, again, in my very hot day in London. Now, I'm going to touch on a topic called Are Black Women Sinning Against Black Men? When it comes to a lot of the Black manosphere, these Red Pill communities that are talking about the issues between both men and women, they talk about it from a very postmodern point of view or an evolutionistic point of view. But one of the things that I want to talk about, or the perspective that I'm providing, is a moral perspective where I believe the truth has been given to us in the Bible, in Scripture. And I'm coming at this from a perspective of a moral standing, what is actually true and right, and what we, regardless of what your religious affiliations are, is there a right or wrong in terms of how to behave in marriages? Okay, and I would say, and in that question, in terms of are black women sinning against black men, I would say black men have always sacrificed for family. They've never been deadbeats. Okay? And to understand this perspective, just go back to the 1960s, where when in the early 1960s there was a report called the Moynihan Report, and essentially what perplexed the US Department of Labour was that even when black men were getting jobs, the black marriages still going down, whereas in other racial groups, when the women got welfare, they started to marry more. Okay, so it tracked upwards, whereas when black unemployment went down, the divorces went up. Okay, so there's never been a time, and you can go back to the Reconstruction era, where even when black men got freedom, 80% marriage rate was the norm within the black community, and they were even getting more married than white people. Can you imagine that? And that is something. So this is the reason why you see today that marriages are really bad within the black community. And what we've seen over the past 60 years is that there's been an unbelievable, unprecedented attack against the black man's image, the black man's morality, the black man's psychology, the black man's proficiency and capability, and that war has been waged on by black women. Okay, and this is really one of the saddest facts of the black community, because all my life growing up, I thought it was on black men to be better black men and to be productive and to be good and to look after their children. But over the past 6 years, as I've done more and more research, I've realised that this is simply not the case, and black women are the ones who are causing major issues within the West. And what they have done is, over the course of the past 60 years, since in and around the time of the Moynihan Report, they have been lying on black men. They've lied to black men about a lot of different things in terms of who's the father of their babies and all these sorts of different things. But they've also lied about black men by calling them deadbeats, dusties, all these sorts of different things, even though black men are the ones who built black businesses, built black communities. And I'm talking about this just in general in terms of the black community. It doesn't mean that black women haven't done any inventions or anything like that, but I'm just talking about the major group of inventions and inventors. A lot of them were black men. And they call black men deadbeats and dusties because essentially black women want to do their own thing. As Dr. E. Franklin Frazier says, that in his book, The Negro Family in the United States, that black women have always had the spirit of independency since the time of slavery. Because the system of white supremacy took out the black man, black women became the stable center of the family. And that has been a cultural pattern that has reinforced itself over generations. This is in the Moynihan Report. Always go back to my YouTube channel. You'll find all the documentation there. You'll find where I provided sources and everything like that. So please check out my YouTube page. And this will give you a lot of clarity in terms of the state of the black community. Because for a long time, I always thought, why can't black men get it together? Why can't we fix this? Why can't we sort it out? But we're being undermined by three different axes of evil. Okay? And one of the reasons why black women they've always had this spirit of independency, 60s, they didn't need black men anymore because they were getting welfare, because they were getting child support, they were getting education, they were getting, excuse me, preferential treatment with careers. They decided that they didn't need black men anymore, and therefore they continued that spirit of independency by continuing the single motherhood epidemic, which was 25% in the early 1960s, and is now in 2024 and 2025 is 69.3%. So you can just see there exactly how much chaos has happened in the black community because of the role reversal, which is enforced by the dominant society and white supremacy to keep the black man down. Okay, so they continue to blame black men for the breakdown of the black family, but it's just simply not true. The history doesn't state that. The books don't state that. The Moynihan report doesn't state that. Sociologists like Dr. E. Franklin Fraser don't state that. Psychologists like Kenneth and Mamie Clark, who did the Dole test in 1954, which created the desegregation of the schools, which is Brown versus Board of Education in 1954. They've always said that single mother-headed households have been the biggest issue within the black community. Black women didn't cause the single mother epidemic, but they are the ones who perpetuate it, and they simply will not break out of the cycle. And the reason why they continue to blame black men for that is because it means that they continue to get welfare, and it means they continue to get legal and political power through the courts by siding with the ideology of feminism. And black women simply do not want to give this power up because it means that they would have to be under the leadership of black men, and they will have to, in a sense, do what the black man says, or do what the black man says. Because in every other society, men are the leaders, women are the followers. That is the correct order. You can read this in the Bible from Adam and Eve through to Boaz and Ruth, through to Christ and his church, Christ being the leader and church being the bride. That is the natural order of things. But that is a role reversal that we see in our society, and this is why you see the rap community, the ghetto communities in Black America. That's the baby mama culture, the single mother-headed households. That is what is causing the destruction within the community. And even over here in the UK, growing up, when knife crime was happening, gun crime was happening, it was mothers against guns, and these were single mothers who didn't understand why there were so many different issues that were happening in their community. And if you're choosing to be single mothers rather than building healthy marriages and healthy families, then why would there not be destruction and chaos when you're doing things the wrong way around? You're putting the cart before the horse. Of course, things will not go correctly. And you will see this in research that a lot of offenders come from the majority of criminals and offenders across all different crimes. The majority of them will come from single mother. It doesn't mean that if you are from a married family, that doesn't mean that your children may not go astray. But what it does mean is that they will have a higher probability of staying away from crime, dysfunction, and chaos if they are from a two-parent family, because men are the leaders. They provide structure, they provide commands, they provide structure, they provide wisdom, and they provide consequences for the children and for the family to kind of keep them on the straight and narrow. So this is another episode of Are Black Women Sinning Against Black Men? And my answer to that question is an absolute resounding yes, because they have lied for a minimum of 60 years. And they have really cut the black community off at the knees by continuing to perpetuate single motherhood culture, and they are lying on black men so that they can keep lining their pockets. And this is why I'll do a video on the three axes of evil, which are keeping the black man suppressed. So I'm your host, Eman. This is Purposeful Patriarchs, and this is another one. Grace and peace.